Hello again, it's Prue. And I've just finished. It's taken me a few days to build this one, but I was inspired a few days ago to put together an LTHS for Business and Government master class. And I just finished it, and I want to go ahead and try to capture the video of this while it's still fresh in my body. Now, why should any legacy business or government, what I'm calling legacy is basically anything that exists today, why would any legacy business or government be interested in considering upgrading to layered ternary harmony story? Well, first of all, and the most important would be for the dramatic reduction in the cost to operate the business. I'm estimating up to 75% by moving to an all-inclusive, no stress, no fault, live, work, play, learn campus model, which at a later time I think I'll do a course just on that. You'll be able to recruit and retrain and retain a new type of top talent, the heroes versus the pilots. And I think we all know what we're talking about. Both of them equally talented, equally excellent, just a different motivator. LTHS would allow you leveraging the latest technologies, including the new LTHS technology, to really minimize cost and footprint and maximize the progress delivered to customers, which would include all humanity, nature, and planet. Progress in this case would be measured in increases to consciousness, which would be knowledge, awareness of ourselves and of our universe, freedom, harmony, leisure time, having to work less hours, for instance, abundance to things, to care, to entertainment, to so many things, to our daily essentials, and new extras, new things, new entertainment, new care, new treatments. These would be metrics for progress, and basically actively aligning our company, our organization, to assisting planet Earth in returning itself to its highest harmony state, which is actively aligning to where everything is right now in the universe. We're aligning our organization to the overall alignment of the universe and its progress forward movement for all on Earth. So hopefully something in here has caught your attention. It's win-win. There's really no losers here except for the owners and speculators that were behind the legacy systems. So it's surprisingly easy to take advantage of layered ternary harmony story for a business or a government organization. It's almost the same process as one might do for themselves, but then we're re-engineering, instead of our lives, we're re-engineering a system, an organization. But the first and foremost is to recognize layered ternary harmony story and its benefits, which I forgot to mention. A prerequisite for all of this is the intro to layered ternary harmony story and the applying LTHS to daily lives. These are important prereqs to be able to really understand this. Without an understanding of layered ternary harmony story or its benefits, of really feeling it, that is the motor for all of this. You kind of can't move from that step forward until you get there. And so I'm strongly recommending a prerequisite to go and visit that. It's here on this site. Choosing that for the organization, for its benefits, for its enhancements, for aligning it, choosing that, then going through the process of re-engineering it, implementing it, and measurements and target. So again, I mentioned going through the intro to LTHS, but in a nutshell, It's a set of discoveries that bring into focus new layers to our physical universe, a computing layer and a software layer in particular, transforming our entire universe into a computing universe. Big changes. And all of that done in a machine executable way, running over a hydrogen atom and stars. So, again, the engineering is actually surprisingly quite straightforward. The hard part is accepting it and making the decision to do this, because it is going to involve correction and pruning for most companies, most legacy companies. And that correction and pruning can be very painful. But knowing what a target is ahead gives us the energy to do it, knowing the trade-off is going to more than pay for itself. And here is a list of the known harmony forces, harmony producing forces. These are universal, these are observable in nature at all layers, and their lack of observably triggers correction by higher harmony state over time. So that's why we want to recognize these forces and engineer around them, because we now understand that their violation triggers higher story correction over time. And these higher stories can be very painful. Revolutions and renaissances, these types of things. I won't go through each of these, but these are the forces that we want to look at, aligning to, pruning to, as we look at all aspects of our organization, including the markets we're serving. I mean, there are markets that just absolutely are not harmonious markets. They introduce disruption, disharmony by their very existence. So these are markets that we would be looking at pruning away from. The same goes for products and services that would introduce disharmony in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through oppression, workforces, through pollution, through any number of things, exclusivity, winners and losers, any number of ways that it might produce disharmony. These things would need to be looked at, corrected, and repointed, with products and services possibly going by the wayside. For instance, coming the whole cruise line industry, very polluting, very oil-based, and not essential for our daily life. These types of things. Our practices, the use of packaging, whether things are centralized and requiring a lot of transportation, freight, hand touch, these types of things. All, again, aligning to, now, instead of just a profit metric, we're aligning to a broad set of harmony, of known harmony forces. So looking to engineer and correct anything that goes against it, that is disharmony producing, because we now know that triggers a higher state correction over time, which is what we're experiencing worldwide right now with this pandemic and collapse right now of the system. So yeah, you can see the different areas of your organization that would go through this kind of scrubbing procedure. Systems, the organization itself, its practices, its footprint, where we decide to place it, and in what form, whether it's sprawled out or whether it's dense and centralized, these types of things. And then we're going to be approaching this thing from a top-down engineering, top being paradise story, harmony story, and a bottoms-up, from the most vulnerable, the most and the voiceless. And I'm talking about babies, I'm talking about elders, I'm talking about the broken, the different, the rejected, I'm talking about nature, I'm talking about planet. We're engineering from the bottom up and from the top down, so that the broadest reach receives the broadest benefits through any one of our actions, because it's been done through an engineering and design, through universal layered designs of known harmony forces. This is like engineering a bridge or a building with the knowledge of gravity. And then as we go through the engineering, again, we're looking at trade-offs. We're looking at avoiding disharmonious situations, disharmonious markets, local versus long-distance decisions, collaborative versus competitive decisions, green versus polluting decisions, free versus controlled decisions, optional versus forced decisions, all-inclusive versus bureaucratic decisions. These are not just small, these are the big knobs for engineering anything in our universe. And there is a right answer. And the right answer, nature reflects it. It's automatic, and it's abundant, and it's beautiful, and it's perpetual. That is by design. We are now going to leverage those same designs into our own organizations and reap tremendous benefits for our employees and any stakeholder within the organization, including the community that it serves. So as we go through now each of these categories, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I just want to bring them to life. Any one of these categories could be the focus of an entire organization for several months to come up with real detailed plans. So the intent of this is just to give you a taste for what would be involved to align and take advantage of a layered ternary harmony story technology within a legacy organization, whether it be a business for-profit, a non-profit, a government, a community, any number of things. So we'd be going into looking at it from the broadest perspective, the market itself, avoiding disharmonious markets, and these things are obvious. Online versus the old-fashioned legacy travel to the account. Or a physical footprint for something, going local, going artisan, handmade, local, nicely done in a central, all-weather, walkable set of markets, creating a vibe. This is nothing new. We're going back to the Roman era here in terms of the way we might structure or I picked Roman, it could be any ancient civilization. This is how these towns were built, walkable, central, with a lot of vibe, a lot of wonderful craftsmanship done in retail, versus some sort of a mass-produced, mega-distributed Walmart, mass-produced in China kind of situations. Again, local, self-sufficient, green, energy production and storage versus its opposite. And we're talking about markets, entire markets. We're talking about the entire oil market. We're talking about the entire toxic battery market. These are things that we would prune away from in favor of, for instance, hydrogen cells. Non-polluting in their production, if you do it right, and non-polluting in their storage. Limitless. Our bodies use hydrogen energy. That's why we're made of water. Non-polluting. All-inclusive, no stress, no fault living. Signing that liability release as we walk through the door and agreeing to live in this way. Event-free, debt-free, everything included at the basics level, with money being now just used for flirting and tipping and just little nice-to-haves, extras, fun money, versus our current reality, full of debt and bills and taxes and insurances and deadlines and whatnot. Again, this was looking at things from a market perspective. What markets would these organizations be in, play in, or allow? Then take a telescope again. It's the same process going through it again now at the product and service level, where you're making decisions in favor of local artisan providers versus these global mass-produced things. Creates jobs. It's the best for the planet. It minimizes the cost and footprint to the planet. Creates good jobs. It creates an environment, and the local economies then, or the local communities, have access to even a higher quality thing. What's produced our current environment and world reality is the pursuit of profit. So reducing material costs as much as possible and increasing material profit as much as possible. That produces a global mass-produced marketplace with mass retail versus the opposite, which might be the most delicious, handmade crafts, local artisan stuff that we would have access to, and a great downtown vibe, hanging out leisurely with our friends, drinking a coffee, maybe smoking a bowl of sativa. We'll listen to some live music. These are things that are absolutely delicious, wonderful for the planet, wonderful for the artisans and artists producing it, wonderful for everyone except Wall Street and our governments that have structured themselves to collect taxes because they hadn't found another way to organize. So, go through these, the kinds of decisions in favor of local live artists, local live musicians, performers, instead of these big money ones. But not cutting yourself off. Maybe these very special masterpiece artists, masterpiece things, we would have access to them, but not on a daily basis at the expense of our local artists, but maybe as a seasonal show or something that comes through as a sprinkling on top. We're building a recipe. We're building a recipe for a delicious daily life for all of our customers. This is what we're doing right now. Let there be no doubt about it. So, all-inclusive living, no stress, whatnot, in a live, work, play, learn campus versus imagining yourself a Wall Street career in New York. The stress and the hours, the sacrifices involved in that. Barreling and continuing to layer through your organization, looking then at the practices, focusing on the things that drive out the cost to our organizations, our employees, our planet. There are things that are win-win, where everything wins, including going online versus all these physical meetings and whatnot. It's a tremendous savings, tremendous difference to everything involved, planet and people, everything. So then travel and physical things become more optional, leisurely, and delicious for our own deliciousness, our own enrichment, versus necessary for the daily grind. Making things optional, voluntary, and unconditional, versus having to sign up and fill in a form, getting approved and forced with a bunch of conditions, and then enforcement and punishment and all these things. These kinds of practice decisions are very, very large, but when we go through them and we make that change, we now have an ability to know why we're doing it and what we're going to get on the other end of it with layered ternary harmony story. The relaxed go with the flow approach versus deadlines and high pressure and quarterly announcements and contracts and commitments and lawsuits and penalties. Simple decisions, huge implications, and not simple cost to make those decisions. But what tremendous benefits to transform our company into a new company, a new age, aligning it with everything around us and our future planet. So, there is a big carrot here. You can see, another one I can see down there that's interesting to touch on, a diagnosis, treatment, and care approach to everything. In other words, it's not at fault. Let's look at things like a tech support person, like a doctor. Let's diagnose, treat, and care for this, versus the judgment, the punishment, and the enforcement, which leaves a bitter taste in so many people. It leaves disharmony. It doesn't leave harmony in its wake. And these would be why we would consider making these profound changes to our organizations. How we organize ourselves, this network of friends, hanging out and enjoying daily life with each other, versus highly structured, highly oppressive, entertainment done at a restaurant or an amusement park or at a theater or whatever, which at a tremendous cost for everyone involved. And then you go back to your not so great life versus living a great life from the start by engineered that way. Doesn't mean there's not a need for a Disneyland kind of concept. It just means that that's just a nice to have as long as it doesn't cost the planet. Same goes for simple, organic, relaxed venues versus big, uptight, very highly structured, very oppressive, very high stress venues. Another huge decision to our organizations of whether we organize in a very structured, top-down way like Google, like Amazon, and reap all the benefits from that type of organization, or whether we continue to organize ourselves in a political, competitive, spread the vote kind of manipulated environment that we have been in for now a long time. These are big knobs. I think we can all see that. Organizing our legal system to be more of a health care providing system, aligning, correcting, treating, building immunity to our communities versus a judgment, punishment, bitterness, creating to our communities. Kind of, again, these are looking quite similar. You're getting the point. We're going through each of the layers of our organization, whether it be government or profit or non-profit businesses, and we're making big decisions to the bones, the skeleton, the architecture of it. The biggest decision of all, whether it even needs to be there or not. That's the biggest decision of all, whether it's necessary. And we owe it to each other and to our planet to bring it back in harmony by placing these decisions, by placing intelligent framing of a complex problem that up until now we didn't have the ability to see and then engineer and correct. But we do now. We're talking about a system more Burning Man, less New York Stock Exchange. Where things are just it's one community, living like a tribal kind of thing, to a point. There are other things, optional things, luxuries. We're all in different places. There is that luxury, there is that middle, there is that bottom in terms of our tastes, and across different things. I might enjoy very simple food and outfits, but I might want the top shelf marijuana, and I should have that ability to live my life in these ways and make those kinds of decisions with a little money in my pocket, but not to have to figure out where I'm going to sleep, what I'm going to eat, what community I'm in, and how I contribute to them daily. Those are two different things. If we want them to be, if we see it and engineer it. Positioning ourselves, acting behaviorally, opening ourselves up to be more of a Wikipedia, of sharing information, collaborating, and moving the ball forward in a maximum way with a minimum cost collaborative effort at the fastest possible speed versus siloing and competing and segmenting and all the enforcement and protection involved behind all that stuff, all the security, this and that. Imagine if there were no lawsuits, no blame, nothing. We would need nothing. There'd be nothing to steal. There'd be nothing to protect against, because it wouldn't even make sense. We can engineer these things now at the highest level through these tools, through this understanding. We want to engineer systems that reward the Nikola Teslas, not penalize them, and that don't reward the Thomas Edisons, that suppress them, that prevent them from siloing, from empire building, from aggression, from shutting down potential's progress by competing. And again, I think we're finishing up here. The footprint, where we place the thing. These, again, the same basic decisions online, always, if we can. And then when it needs to be something, creating more of a campus, a beautiful campus versus a fragmented, stressed out, traffic jammed, piecemeal life experience of the city that encompasses the campus. A relaxed, leisurely Margaritaville, Jimmy Buffett, Burning Man kind of approach to our footprint versus a very oppressed, very structured, very high cost, very high maintenance type of thing of maybe a real high-end cruise ship, for instance. These kinds of decisions of how we establish ourselves, applying, pruning, correcting towards known harmony, and moving away from this disharmony producing. Where we place these cities, for instance, an abundant, beautiful climate, like a Santa Cruz type of a placement versus a place like LA or Las Vegas where water has to be rerouted, dams built, everything needs to be brought in. These are big decisions with big impacts, very big knobs. And again, we've touched on that, a sharing Wikipedia approach to things versus a proprietary Encyclopedia Britannica, limited in silos and competing for the sake of gain by the loss of somebody else. So that kind of walks you through what is a very simple but very, very difficult at the same time process of looking at one's organization and seeing if now's the time to look at a possible upgrade, especially with everything tanked as it is. This could be just the right time to consider layered ternary harmony story into your legacy. And if there's any interest out there, I want you to email me. I provided that email. And if you can make it to Tucson in December, we'll see you then. Take care. Thank you.